Okay, hello guys, welcome back again to my segment. And once again, my name is Darrell and we'll talk about grammar. Okay, don't mind about my background, even though it's real talk, but this time we'll talk about grammar. Okay, yesterday we discussed about dynamic verbs, right? And then for when you say dynamic verbs, these verbs show action. And of course, it has four types. We have accomplishment verbs, semi-affectives, activity verb, and those kind of verbs. So most of them somehow shows action. And today, I'm going to introduce the opposite of dynamic verb, and we call that as stative verb. So when you say opposite, it means this kind of verb usually doesn't really show some physical action, right? Okay, so here when we say stative verb, it is a verb used primarily to describe a state of being, like for example, I am, or a situation like I have. So this verb is how something is, feels, or appears. So it means it shows how the person feels, how a thing appears, or how is or what are or is the qualities of the person. And also keep in mind that these verbs don't show physical action. Okay, for example, like a run. For the word a run here, it shows a physical action, there's movement, right? Okay, so we call it one as physical action, or we call it one as dynamic verb. And remember, for stative or stative verb, it does not show physical action, or sometimes it also doesn't show process, like it prints. Okay, now for more information, stative verbs can describe a mental or emotional state of being. So it means commonly for stative verb or stative verb, it somehow describes about our thinking, about our mental capacity, or this verb shows about our how we think sometimes. And also our emotional state of being, it means our current condition emotionally. For example, like the word I doubt. So as well as physical state, or so we say the physical state, it means like right now, what is this person's condition. So we call it one as physical state, like Roy was here, so it's like a physical state. Maybe this person was present that time. Okay, and the situations illustrated by state verbs are unchanging, while they last and can continue for a long or indefinite time period. Yeah, commonly for most of the state verbs or static verbs, these verbs are somehow unchanging. Probably it is constant, or we can say that some of them last or continue for a long or indefinite time period. It's somehow there's a similarity with one of the dynamic verbs about the accomplishment verb sometimes, because it can last for a long time also. But of course, there's like a result, right? Okay, but here for static verb, it only shows a situation or verbs that can last and continue for a long or indefinite time period. Okay, and also for this static verbs verb, it has four major types. First one, we call this one as sensing verbs. The second one, emotion and thought verbs. The third, possession verbs. And finally, we have being or qualities verbs. So I will try to discuss more about these types of the verbs, and I'll give more examples and how can we differentiate each one of them so that we can better understand these four major types of stative or stative verbs. First one, for sensing verbs. Actually, if we say the word sensing, it comes from the word sense. So in our body, somehow we have five common senses. We use our sense of sight, sense of hearing, sense of taste, sense of touch, and sometimes also what are senses? Yeah, hearing, touch, smell, and also smell. Okay, so commonly for sensing verbs, derives from our senses. So sensing verbs talks about senses and perception that includes data coming into your five senses. So these verbs or these sensing verbs are connected with our five senses. So the examples of sensing verbs are see, hear, smell, sound, seen, sense, taste, and look. Okay, commonly for see and seem, it came from sense of sight. For hear, of course, from our sense of hearing. For smell, yeah, obviously is for our sense of smelling is our nose. Oh, also hear and sound, commonly for them, both of them came from our sense of hearing. See, seen, and look, yeah, they came from our sense of seeing or sight sometimes. And taste, it comes from our sense of taste or using our tongue. So as you notice, these verbs are semi-connected with our five senses. But in a way, even though they're connected, somehow for the stative verbs, they have their own meaning. But if you try to use them in an active, or what we call one dynamic verb, somehow they also have different meaning. So I will try to discuss more later how can we differentiate dynamic verbs and stative verbs in a sentence. Because remember, some of the verbs have two meanings based on how we use them in our sentence. Here, for example, sentence of sensing verbs, we have even from a distance, Ethan's pace looked quick. So if you notice one, we have looked as our verb here, right? Okay, so look here is an example of a sensing verb and it's kind of connected with our sense of sight. So for the word look. And the cookies smell delicious. So cookies with the verb, we have the word here smelled. So the verb here is smelled, then it is connected with our sense of smelling or using our nose sometimes. Yeah, so somehow it's kind of like connected there. That's why we use these sensing verbs. And the last one, this fabric feels so good on the skin. So for fabric, yeah, if you want to feel the fabric, okay, you can say this fabric feels so good on the skin. So we use our sense of touch to sense what is the texture or what the texture of the fabric is. And also guys, commonly for sensing verbs, if you notice, we can change these verbs here into linking verb. Yeah, it's possible. So if you notice, if you change them into linking verb, they still have the same meaning. For example, even from a distance, Ethan's pace is quick. Look quick is quick. So they're quite the same. The cookies smell delicious. The cookies were delicious. So of course, it's also quite the same. And this fabric feels so good on the skin. This fabric, this one is kind of difficult. This fabric is so good on the skin. So that's why sometimes for sensing verbs, it's also possible that we can change them into linking verb. But if you want to show an expressive way of saying your ideas, then maybe instead of using be verbs or linking verbs, we can use sensing verbs. And it makes your sentence or it makes your ideas more appealing sometimes. Okay, that's why I would recommend everyone to use sensing verbs instead of linking verbs sometimes. But anyway, they still have the same meaning, so it's up to you. And for number 2, we have emotion and thought verbs. Yeah, from the word emotion, it comes from our feeling. And the word thought, it comes from our mind sometimes. It's how we think. And these verbs involve mental activity rather than physical activity. Yes, sometimes it's about our mind. So examples of these emotion and thought verbs are love, hate, adore, like, doubt, remember, need, prefer, feel, long, think, understand, believe, agree or disagree, recognize, suspect, forget, enjoy, I have prefer here again, and appear. So if you notice, most of these verbs here are connected with our mental activity or with our mental state. So we call them emotion and thought verbs. Example sentence, we have, it appears that he doesn't know the solution. Here, our verb here is appears. So it's connected with our emotion or thinking, then it is an example of an emotion and thought verbs. I believe he was, oh, I forgot here a minute ago. Okay, try to put here. Okay, don't mind her here. That's here. It was my typographical error. And here, I disagree on this idea to have a trip during this pandemic. So commonly, yes, we have disagrees about our thinking as well. Okay, I forgot to put out there. So anyway, guys, that is why somehow these examples of verbs that we can find these sentences are connected with our emotion and thought. That's why we call them emotion and thought verbs. For the next one, we have possession verbs. Yes, for the word possession, commonly it's like what you own, what you have. So we call it possession verbs. It's quite obvious, right? So these are verbs that express ownership or something what you have, something what you own. So we call that possession verbs. Example of these verbs are have, belong, include, own, and want. Yeah, as you notice, it's like what this person owns. So we call this one as possession verbs. Okay. Example sentence of possession verbs are, first one, I have a class after the session. Yeah, okay, have. It means this person possessed a class after the session. So it's also a possession verb. This book belongs to Maria. Oh, okay, so it means belongs. It's also a possession verb. Somehow it's Maria possesses book. So we call it one as possession verb. And for number 3, I don't know who owns this pen. Yeah, possession verbs are quite easy to differentiate than to the two other verbs because it shows about ownership, right? It's kind of easy. So those are the 3 types of stative verb. Again, when we say stative verb, these verbs are primarily used to describe a state of being, like I am, like, or situation, or I have. So again, it is how something is, feels, or appears. And remember, they don't show physical action. Instead, they don't show physical action. Somehow they show feeling, mental state sometimes, or mental condition, or mental activity. And of course, they also don't show process. That's why we don't call them stative verb. Those verbs again, which shows physical action and processes, are called what? It is dynamic verb. So for state verb, it shows mental or emotional state of being. And the 4 major types again are sensing verbs, emotion and thought verbs, possession verbs, being or qualities. Oh, I forgot the last one. For the last one, we have being or qualities verbs. For being qualities verbs, guys, these are used to describe the states of being. It means the condition of something. So commonly, we can find here the be, are, and is. Yes. Also, you can use way. Guys, be, are, and is a very common verb for being or qualities. And somehow we can use way, contain, involve. Oh, we have the same contain again. Okay, remove contain and consist. For example sentence, we have it involves 2 ways to solve the problem. So this one also shows being. I am happy because of my accomplishment. This one shows about qualities, or sometimes being also what the quality being happy, right? and the food contains a poisonous substance. Okay, this one shows about being as well, or qualities. So these are the four major types of stative verbs. Okay, one more time before we proceed to differentiating dynamic verbs and stative verbs. So for the four major types of stative verbs, these are sentence verbs. For sentence verbs, they are connected with the other five senses. We use smell, sound, look, feel, or those kind of verbs. Emotion and thought verbs, somehow they're connected with our mental state, or sometimes with our emotion, like prefer, agree, disagree, those kind of verbs. And for number three, possession verbs. This one shows about ownership again, right? Okay, have, own, belong. Okay, we call them possession verbs. And for the fourth one, we have being, qualities, being or qualities verbs. The very obvious example is like is, are, was, or be verbs sometimes, and way also involves. Okay, those are being or qualities verbs. Now, guys, somehow some of the verbs actually have two meanings if you try to use them in a sentence. So that's why here, with these verbs that have two meanings, we can differentiate now the stative verb from dynamic verb. Even though we are using the same verbs, but somehow in the sentence they have different meaning. And most of the students have difficulty differentiating the meaning of these verbs, because when they hear one word, or like for example the word look, so in their mind they are only fixed with one meaning of the verb. But somehow if you try to use the other word for look, it also has other meaning. Secondly, for even though there are some of the verbs here like look or have, yes, they are stative verb. It's also possible to use them in the continuous tenses, but if you use them there, they have different meaning. They are not now stative, then probably they are now dynamic verbs. That's why it's kind of confusing to differentiate between dynamic and stative verb with the same verbs in the sentence. But anyway, I will try to explain more about their differences. First one, we have Bernard looks healthy. So for this sentence, with the verb looks healthy, Bernard looks healthy. This one talks about his appearance now. It means his how this person looks. So it means here for looks, somehow actually we are using our sense of sight. And the first one, example sentence here, it is a stative verb and it falls under the sensing verbs, right? And also remember, for the word looks here, it's possible that we can change that into linking verb or be verb. So we can say Bernard is healthy. But if you want to make it better, you can say Bernard looks healthy. It makes your sentence more appealing sometimes. Okay, and for the second one, yeah, we still use the word look, but now this one becomes past continuous. Here, I was looking out the window at the rain. In this sentence, the word was looking out talks about watching the rain. So this one shows action. Remember, if the verb shows physical action, then we can say this one it is a dynamic verb. Okay, because we can say I was looking, this person was looking, and this one has a certain action. Okay, do you get it? Okay, good. Now for the next one, we have does Maria have a piano? Oh, we have the word have here. For have, of course, this is a stative verb. It talks about ownership, what a person owns. And for the second one, they are having lunch with their mother today. So when we say are having or have here, the other form of have, this one now becomes a dynamic verb because it shows action. And the action here, it means eating or they are eating. So even though they have the same verbs, but they have different meanings. And the verbs there are also different. So the first one is stative verb. Does Maria have a piano? This one is a stative verb. And the second one, they are having lunch with their mother today. This one, the are having there is a dynamic verb. Okay. Next one. I don't hear the music playing. So in this case, what do you guess? Is it dynamic verb or stative verb or static verb? So when you say I don't hear the music playing, it means hear with my ears. I'm using my sense of hearing, right? So if I'm using my sense of hearing, it belongs to sensing verbs. So sensing verbs also belong to, yes, you're correct, stative verbs. Next one, our manager will be hearing our presentation today. Also, I use the same word here again. For here, it becomes now a future continuous form, will be hearing. When you say will be hearing here, it means will be listening to. So, if the meaning of the will be hearing becomes will be listening to, it obviously shows an action. So this one is a dynamic verb. Next one. Lola feels that we were rude. Oh, we have feels. For feels here, again, it's our sensing verb. For sensing verb, we can change that into linking verb. You can also say, oh, no, we cannot because we have that word here. So it's also impossible to change it into be verb. In some situations it's possible, but here we can't. So we can say Lola feels that we were rude. So feels here, it means thinks. This one belongs probably to sensing verbs, or also we can say it belongs to emotion and thought verb. So it is a stative verb. And for the last one, how has your father been feeling? So here, it shows about how is his father's health. Okay. Oh, this one's also kind of stative, right? Okay, this is about the condition of someone. So that's why sometimes it's kind of confusing to guess this word. And here, that perfume smells good. Oh, smells good here, it means it has a good scent. For smells, we can change this one into linking verb. We can say that perfume is good. But smells good is better, right? Because it makes your sentence more appealing. And so the smells good here, the first sentence, this is a stative verb because it runs or it is under the sensing verbs. And here, the boy is smelling the flowers. Oh, smelling here, it means sniffing at. There's action there. You're sniffing the flower. You're smelling the flower. So it means if there's an action, then we can call this one as a dynamic verb because it shows physical activity. And the last one, the new baby weighs 3 kilograms. Her weight is 3 kilograms. So here, if you notice, it's only that weighs. We can also change it into linking verb. We can say is 3 kilograms, right? This one becomes now a stative verb. But for the another sentence using weigh as again, the woman is weighing the apples. So weighing here, it means measuring their weight. They're trying to get the measurement or how heavy the apples are. So there is physical activity there, even though we use weigh in our sentence. And so that one, it is a dynamic verb. Okay, so do you understand now what's the difference between dynamic and stative verb. Okay, I hope you understand much of it, even for a short time, and I hope you have learned something about my lesson. So next time I will introduce another grammar rule, and I will try to talk about unfamiliar grammar rules and how can this rule can help us improve our English. Okay? So I believe that's all for today. So see you again next time, and have a great day everyone. Take care. By the way, I'm Darrell, and have a nice day. Bye bye.